They could feel this was their second home, a second home they didn't have when we only had North Hall. Was the main priority, and I think we've largely accomplished that. When you look at the level of student engagement, the number of clubs, activities, the network, wireless network, and just look around the campus all times of day, morning, early morning, evenings, weekends. Students are always here interacting with each other, engaged with each other, involved in important activities. And it's really gratifying to see. So the scope of the Haaren backfill project was to renovate some of the floors in Haaren Hall for departments that were not intended to move when the new building was constructed. For example, public management, which is still in North Hall. So we had to renovate large section of the 5th floor in Haaren Hall in order for the public management department to move over. So that's the kind of work that is underway. Now, at the same time, we wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to conduct work in Haaren Hall so that we could prevent it from becoming what North Hall had become. Because what happened to North Hall was many, many years of benign neglect, to be kind. Okay, the university, the college, was told that we'd have a new building and we don't have the resources, can't invest capital money in North Hall because we'll be vacating North Hall. Well, unfortunately, it took, and it is still taking, a very long time. And the kinds of investments you normally would make in a building that's aging the way North Hall has aged, we were not able to make. We did the best we could. I think we made a lot of important safety changes, fire safety changes in North Hall. We actually opened up a satellite campus at Westport, and we closed down 20 classrooms and moved them down to Westport in order to make North Hall less occupied and more safe. I think we did all that we could to keep North Hall functioning. Now, it's North Hall, it's not Haaren Hall, it's not the new building. It will never, should be compared to those buildings, but it's highly functional, but it's time for us to finally be leaving North Hall. So what we're doing in Haaren Hall is, not only the renovations, but replacing all of the mechanical systems, the heating and cooling systems, tying those systems into the new building so that we can extend the life of Haaren Hall in the way that we weren't able to do in North Hall. So that's very, very important work. Unfortunately, it's very invasive work, right? Work that's going on behind the scenes, above the ceilings, electrical work, duct work, heavy equipment being moved in. Very complicated, invasive, takes a long time. But this was the time to do it. So it's an inconvenience for a little while. It's going to extend the life of the building for future generations of John Jay students. Now, we were fortunate that we had North Hall while this work was taking place so that we could use it for swing space. Otherwise, there would be no way that we could conduct this work because we had to move all these people out of Haaren Hall to do this work, right? Classrooms, programs, and so forth. So we've been using North Hall in a temporary way, and we've been keeping our fingers crossed. And I say prayers every night that North Hall continues to function reasonably well while we have to stay there. So we've had classes there, and I know it hasn't been easy on people because North Hall doesn't work as well as the other buildings, the way you want a building to work. But I want to take this opportunity to commend the facilities staff for doing such a great job of keeping North Hall functioning and keeping our ability to use it. They've done a great job, and we've done a great job of protecting the people who work there and keeping them as reasonably comfortable as we could, considering the condition of North Hall. So we've been using it as swing space. We moved all the classes there. They're all going to be moving back, okay? Our plan is to move them back by the spring semester if all goes well. So all the classes taking place in North Hall will be moving back to Haaren Hall. And Haaren Hall is going to work a lot better. The temperature controls, it'll be warm when it's supposed to be warm. It'll be cool when it's supposed to be cool. We're rehabilitating the escalators, which are always breaking down. There's a lot of concern about that. Very expensive project to do. And we're going to invest in Haaren Hall, the things you should be doing to keep the building running. So what's going to happen to North Hall? Well, North Hall is owned by the state of New York, managed by CUNY. The university state intends to sell North Hall. It's a very valuable piece of real estate here on the west side of Manhattan. There's been, some discussion about the relocation of the Gutman Community College, which is part of CUNY, is being located there. That's a little bit up in the air. We're not sure if that's going to happen, but what we do know is that we've been sort of put on notice that we need to vacate North Hall by the end of the calendar year, unless something goes off. In the meantime, just like when I was talking about as we were building a new building, the college sort of evolved, and you feel like you're chasing yourself to try to um, create space that's going to match your needs as time goes on, because those needs are always changing. Same thing has happened in North Hall, okay? So we relocated programs there, classrooms, and then other needs have arisen, and we decided to take advantage of the opportunity of having a little bit more space in North Hall for the time that we were there. So we did things like create a veteran center in North Hall, very nice veteran center in the former vice president of student development suite, right? We knew when we did that eventually we'd have to find another permanent location because North Hall was going to be vacated. We located other programs there as well, allowed programs to expand. So now that we need to vacate it, and as this was becoming closer to a reality, we began to engage the university in discussions about, hey, we need more space, and it's been a difficult challenge to convince them for two reasons. Number one, they invested $700 million in the new building, okay? That's a large commitment. We're very thankful to the university for that commitment. It's beautiful space. And, there's an impression that, why would you need new space when you have this beautiful new building? How could you possibly need new space? Look how big this building is, right? But what we do know is that even with the building and without North Hall, the college is among or at the bottom of the number of square feet per student FTE in the CUNY system of the senior colleges because of how we've grown and expanded once you take away North Hall. That's the reality. So we've been asking for new space. So the first response is, you have a new building. Why are you asking for new space for, right? The second response is, well, okay, maybe you do, but we really can't afford to pay for any new space right now. All the leases, they're very, very expensive, and we had them. We have Westport, we have BMW, we have 54th Street. We have three different satellite locations. These are leases that the university pays for, right? They do not have the capacity to pay for these leases. The state is reducing support, as I started out saying at the beginning of the presentation when I gave my opening remarks, and that means no money for new leases. So the university said, you're going to have to figure out how to fit everything out of North Hall somewhere else in space that you already have. So that's been the work that's been underway over the last year or so. We brought in a consultant, and this is where my staff will pick up things where we've had to consolidate programs, consolidate space in ways to make everything fit. Hasn't been easy. We appreciate all your cooperation, and Pat and Mark will talk a little bit about the details and where things are at the moment. So thank you, Pat.
Okay. So as Rob mentioned, we engaged the services of a space consultant. Once it became evident to us that the university was not going to pay for additional space, we decided to hire a space consultant really for two purposes. In the short term, to help us assess and provide some assistance in reorganizing the programs and the departments we have into sort of the envelope of our existing space, and also to look at the longer term space needs. So we haven't gotten the official reports yet. We have the short term. They helped us to kind of sort out, which departments might have extra offices, which were short, and really a lot of the work was done by my staff, by Sarah Kuya, who I think most of you know, and by Inez, and then now Mark is following up in Inez's footsteps. So this was really a challenge, and was a challenge that I don't think any of us enjoyed, because it means we're all squeezing. That's the reality of this. Nobody probably has the sufficient space that they need. But the other part of the report that the consultant is going to provide us with is really to assess the long-term space needs of the college. Where are we headed enrollment-wise? Where are we headed, faculty growth-wise, which hopefully when we get past this current budget crisis, we will be growing the faculty again. And so in the long term, how much space do we really need? And, that report will sort of become the basis of a capital request back to the university for either some other building, some lease, whatever it may be. So this is important work that went on. So the next slide. Using the information that was provided by the consultant and kind of a knowledge of existing spaces, Sarah has kind of laid out a plan where we can all fit. So, this is, we're going to have to do this in kind of a phased move. There's domino effects. We have to move offices out of North Hall, ultimately into BMW, but before they can be moved into the BMW space, we need to renovate the BMW space. So we were successful in obtaining some temporary space, additional space in BMW on the 10th and 11th floors. So we have already moved the national network for safe communities. We've moved them off the 6th floor up to the 11th floor in BMW. And then the spaces on the 6th floor in BMW will be renovated for financial aid and the registrar. The financial aid and the registrar are one of the offices that kind of got left in North Hall when we moved to the new building, because they were supposed to move to the area where J Express is now, and it just was not large enough to accommodate the staff in both of those offices. And in the meantime, in order to make this plan work, we have to consolidate spaces within the new building. So we have shared the plans with the chairs of the academic departments, and they're going through and assigning spaces within their departments. Next slide. And so this plan is sort of starting to take effect. We've done pieces of phase one, which is to move the offices out of BMW in the space that need to be renovated. We've moved the national network out. The next area that has to move is the area of the associate provost for strategic initiatives. Sorry, Ann. And we could not find swing space for that office, so that office has to move directly onto the 4th floor of Haaren, where they will go. So that right now is sort of the linchpin in all of this, because until the 4th floor in Haaren is ready, we can't move them out. We can't do the renovation for financial aid and registrar. So right now that's sort of the sticking point, and that is the focus of the work of the contractor. We plan to do the new building consolidations over the course of this semester. As I said, the plans are with the chairs. The phase after that will be North Hall offices moving to the new building, which we have a list up here. And this is all pretty much an important announcement that was distributed about a month or so ago. And then the next piece, next slide, I'm sorry, is the North Hall moves to Haaren Hall when Haaren Hall is completed. So as Rob said, a lot of the work that's going on in Haaren Hall is mechanical, so it's a little bit behind the scenes. It's not evident what's happening, but that mechanical work is not yet completed. The target now, they're saying by November. We'll see. I mean, every week that goes by, we see what happens or doesn't happen, or what new challenges come up. And then there'll be other moves to Haaren Hall, which would be people moving from BMW into Haaren Hall. Then there's, as I said, the people from North Hall moving to BMW. And lastly, the Westport moves. So the national network will ultimately be moving to Westport. So if you next slide. So and this is one of the important elements. I think the only way that we were able to really make this work is really reusing Westport in a different way. So if you all recall, we used to have the bookstore was on the one side of Westport at 55th Street, and on the 56th Street side was cafeteria. So those spaces will be gutted and renovated for the some of the centers. The national network is going to go on the one side, and the other side is going to be training rooms for professional studies, and ultimately, we do have another capital request in for that space from the CUNY 2020 grant, and we're hoping to get that, and then we can further advance our professional studies there. So, sort of the impacts of this. So, as I said, you know, one of the major impacts is that everybody is squeezed. So, people don't have the offices. We had to constrain adjunct space and, you know, quite frankly, take space away from adjuncts that they had been assigned in the department. So, we've had to consolidate the offices for the adjuncts. We're creating shared flexible offices on every floor where there's a department, as well as on the second floor of Haaren where there's classrooms. We're creating shared spaces, but we are going to build partitions there, so there'll be rooms where the adjuncts can meet with students. We'll provide lockers, copiers, some private areas, so we are trying to make the best of this and trying to really accommodate everybody's needs. The other big factor is classroom utilization. So as we've had, there are more classrooms in North Hall than there are in Haaren. However, as we discussed, the ultimate plan was to give up North Hall. So we will have more classrooms than we had back in 2010 when enrollment was really much higher. So even though it's fewer classrooms than we have this semester, it's not fewer than what we had historically. So one of the effects of fewer classrooms is that we have to increase utilization in the Westport classroom. So one of the things the consultant did was they looked at utilization in the different buildings, and Westport, there's times of the day when it's used 20%, 10%. So this is going to require new policies and strategies for scheduling classes. So we've talked about this in the financial planning, strategic planning subcommittee, and there's a group working on new policies for scheduling classes that would really provide equity, so that, you know, each department would have to have some classes in Westport, would have to have, each department has to have classes throughout the day, can't have all the classes between 11 and 3, Monday and, you know, Wednesday. So we're just going to have to make better use of the grid, and that is going to have an effect on everybody, obviously. But as I said, all of this is, we don't really have a choice in this. So this is, we're making the best of the situation and, just trying to do our best. So the timeline on all this, I think, as I said, they're estimating the work would be done in Haaren Hall sometime in mid-November. We would look to move the associate provost out of BMW onto the 4th floor in mid-November. That would give us a chance to renovate the BMW space, and then by the end of the semester, most likely January, we would do the other moves and move the other departments out of North Hall into Haaren, into BMW. The last piece of this is going to be Westport. That Westport renovation is taking longer than expected, and we don't expect that space to be online until sometime later in the spring, which is why we were able to get this swing space from the university. As we said, it's very fluid. Things are changing every week, so we will continue communicating as information becomes available. And I think that's it. So I guess questions.
There's a question back here. Yep.
Please stand at the mics, line up.
David Shackner, a master's degree student in criminal justice. So I just want a clarification. Is the plan that all the professors that have offices in North Hall will be out of there by the end of the semester? Senior Vice President.
It is our hope that we'll be able, my hope is that we do this during the spring, during the winter break. Okay, it's impossible, it's not, reasonable to expect that faculty should have to move while they're doing final exams and papers and grading and so forth. That, to me, would not be a reasonable expectation. So, we continue to negotiate on behalf of the college with the university and to indicate to them, when things are going to work and when things aren't going to work. And they've been very cooperative, and sometimes it takes a little bit of pushing back to help them understand the impact of some of the decisions that they make. I frankly don't think that we'll be in a position to move anyway because of the schedule, how the schedule of the work is playing out.
And you also mentioned that the university does not have money for the leases. So in terms of, like, for example, the 6th floor of BMW, when does that lease expire?
The university doesn't have money for new leases, okay? The existing leases for the 3 satellite locations that we have are part of the university's budget, right, and part of the money they get from the state on an annual basis. What they don't have money for is any new leases. And there's a commitment there, the spaces that we already have that are under lease, they're going to continue to pay for.
So the 10th and 11th floors of BMW, that's just temporary?
That is a temporary use of space to allow us to begin to make some of the moves that are necessary in order for the overall plan to work. It's really important that we move, and we only have a small window of opportunity to move critical offices like registrar and financial aid. And for that to happen, we had to move things off of the BMW floor somewhere. The intention plan was to move it to Westport. Westport, as Ms. Ketterer said, has to be renovated. That renovation has not really been undertaken yet. It's going to take a while to do that. So that could potentially hold up moving registrar and financial aid. So in order for that to not happen, the university is letting us use space that they already have, right? Not new space. Space they already have under contract, under lease, because they're also moving things around too, and we can use it temporarily until Westport is completed, and then we'll go back to our original plan.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Hello, my name's Isaac Sharman. I'm a junior here at John Jay. As for the sale of North Hall,
Would you like to buy it? Is that why you're asking?
I'm wondering if there's plans for the funds from that sale. Will John Jay receive any funds from that? Or?
Oh, I would love to be able to say they're going to sell it and give us all the money, but I'm afraid that's not going to happen. The university and the dormitory authority have the power to make that decision. So I'm sure it'll be put to a good university use.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angie. I'm a senior. I have a question. Where is the lactation room going to be now?
Anyone on my staff able to answer that?
Sarah, who is much more familiar with all of the details of the space plan, informs me that it will be near the Women's Center. So we can have Sarah work with Student Affairs and just clarify exactly which room it will be, because I don't know it off the top of my head, but there will be a lactation center.
Good afternoon to all. Dane Schillingford, President of International Students Association. While it is unfortunate that John Jay and CUNY and the university will be moving out of Norfolk, we are a bit concerned with the trend of. First off, my first concern is that the International Students Association was granted a International Students Lounge in Norfolk that we really strongly advocated for a long time before it was given to us. But with the present situation, we realized that when the email was sent out, we were not placed on the relocation, and we have not heard from anyone as to whether we'll be moving into a new space, considering that international students do use the lounge on a regular basis. If you'd like to see the sign-in sheets, we can always send that to you guys. Also, it's in the air that we might be moving to Cecil or anything, but I have not heard any official confirmation. I think that in itself, dealing with that issue right now and not making provisions in the relocation is a bit moving away in the wrong direction for the college, considering that President Travis sent out an email on September 9th detailing the new initiatives with Beijing and and Taiwan with the expansion of international programs here at the college. So it would seem not fit to, shun us away from, future prospects, and, relocation is something we think that we should have been included. If not, we should have at least had some communication with the relevant authorities on this. Secondly, the college's direction with international programs seems to be heavily focused on Beijing and Taiwan, considering that we're educating for justice, and with that general theme of justice, we need a global perspective rather than a regional perspective. So it seems that we're going down that line of a cultural dilution here at the college in the near future. So it's just a word of caution coming out of the International Students Association. Not that I want to ruffle any feathers, because I'm a senior here and I would like to graduate on a good, with some good rapport. But I hope my 2 minutes is not up.
I think your time is up.
My time is up? Okay.
Well, you made a lot of good points, and I want you to allow us some time to respond to them.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll
Thank
be
you very
listening
much
along
for-
with the rest of the international
Yes, no,
students.
you made a lot of valid points, and we're coming to the close of our time here. I want to be able to have time to respond and give others a chance to ask questions. A couple of things. The lounge for international students is a good example of what I mentioned before, an idea that was raised here at a town meeting, right? It was raised at a town meeting. We huddled after the meeting, myself, VP Cook Francis, and our staffs, and we took advantage, another point I made earlier, of some extra space in North Hall that we had while we have it, okay? And we created the lounge. Now, I don't know the details of where that might be winding up, and I will, after the meeting, consult with my staff, and I don't want to give you an answer right now. In my view, we should replicate as close as possible what we've done in North Hall somewhere else, because as you point out, international programs, broadening our global perspective is a major priority of the institution, a major priority of the president. Just the other day, I went to the first study abroad reunion of students in the president's office. It was terrific. And the enthusiasm, the excitement of the students. They had sort of a photo contest where they displayed photos of the places that they have studied all over the world, not just in China, by the way. Very interesting places, in Spain and Italy and so forth. So I think we're beginning to shape our international efforts. We tend to respond to where the interest is. There was a lot of interest from China, right? And that's why you saw that initiative. I don't think you should take that to mean we're limited to a particular part of the world. Just today, not that this is really my area, but I'm involved a little bit in Italian-American circles, and there's an interest from the University of Calabria to work with us on organized crime issues. So this is happening all the time. It's expanding, and the world's a big place, and we want to be part of all of it. Okay? So thank you for those questions. Yes.
Okay. I want to thank you for the discussion about space. A lot of us have been wondering what's going on with the space. But we want to address right now the environment within that space, the emotional violence that's going on within the space of John Jay. Outside, there's a statue of John Jay. We've spoken to many students. I'm Aisha, by the way, here with the Social Justice Project. We've spoken to many students on campus, a lot of faculty, and a lot of people are feeling the same way, that the creation out there is a reminder that we have not had that conversation that this nation needs to have. Other than a museum, something that we encountered was this decoration. I mean, other than a museum, I don't know of a statue of Oskar Schindler that's being celebrated and decorated anywhere by those that were affected by the Holocaust. We have not addressed the root causes of state and legal violence, something that many of us deal with on a constant basis. So we can talk about police and community relations, but we're not talking about cop culture. And the systemic roots of such, the state and legal violence. Thus, we're not being honest with ourselves, and we're not being honest with our intentions. I've spoken to a lot of police officers about the problems that we have and the problems that the community is saying that we're having. and a lot of their tactics, and a few of them are actually apologetic. They're actually apologetic, but then we're left with, you know, I'm doing my job, I'm doing what's expected of me. We've seen not many, but few police officers who spoke out on the culture, the corruption, and violence against citizens, and they're subjected to repercussions for speaking out from the department, from other officers. So the slogan, to protect and serve, is befitting in this aspect because the men and women from the particular institution, they're protecting a legacy of injustice and serving it up daily in our communities. The fact that CUNY itself is invested in the prison industry with companies like Aramark and CCA, Corrections Corporations of America, in their portfolio, just compounds the fact that this country, this school has not learned from its past. So for many in this country and in this community, just walking outside of our doors has become a somber daily trek through the complex psychology of life, and this institution has become an extension of that emotional violence.
Well, I don't know what's necessarily going on with the statue at the moment. That's something I'd have to look at a little more carefully. And if Vice President Cook Francis wants to talk about that, we'll defer to her. I will say, you know, I think there's a clear, there's a recognition of many of the issues that you have mentioned here and our role to address them. I mean, you could not have a stronger recognition or an advocate for those kinds of issues than our President, Jeremy Travis, and the research and the work that he's dedicated his life to. Prison reform, prisoner reentry, police reform, improving police community relations. So I think there is room for more voices in how we address these issues. I think the student voices are critically important. I know that the President welcomes them. We want to hear from you. This is your future that we're trying to help you build, and it should be a just future for you and for all. So I will just say that, and I will defer to VP Cook Francis to talk a little more about what's going on with the statue.
I'm not positive about how you were relating the statue to your important comments, but I have heard a few comments, and they've been on Twitter. So we've had, or have tried to start, a little fun tradition at John Jay with the new statue by asking clubs and organizations and teams to dress John Jay, the statue, in a way that reflects their club and organizations during the weeks of welcome, which end today. And so today we walked in, and John Jay was dressed, he has dreadlocks, he has on a shirt, he has on a bandana, and the bandana says Theatrical Players, I think. And that's because the Theatrical Players Club dressed John Jay. Now, and somebody is showing a picture. They've taken it down, but I want you to know what their intention was, because they're very disturbed that people feel that it was meant as a slight or that it was racist. They did a play last year about pirates, and that is meant to be Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean with the dreads and the pirate shirt and so forth. They had pirate costumes left over, and so they dressed up the statue to look like Jack Sparrow to represent their club. And really, that was the intention. It was meant to be lighthearted. It was meant to be fun. Some people have put some things on Instagram, and they've responded. But here's the thing, is that absolutely everything that we see and do can be loaded. It's art. In this case, it's the Theatrical Players dressing up the statue. And the meaning of art is in the eye of the beholder. If what that statue did was prompt you to have a conversation, to come up here and say those important words, to talk with your fellow students and colleagues and peers about how it makes you feel, even if it doesn't make you feel great, then we're doing exactly what we should be doing at a college. I don't think it was their intention. I'm sure it wasn't their intention to be offensive, because I've spoken to the students myself. I didn't personally see it as offensive. I took a picture with him this morning, because I was just excited to see somebody had dressed him up. I understand how you may have reacted to that. I'm not saying that's the wrong reaction, but reaction is what it's all about here at college. So keep reacting, keep talking, and talk to your colleagues, your fellow students, about what prompted them, and let's just be kind with each other, because that's what we're talking about.
Did you want to, if you,
So on this issue,
please identify yourself first,
Mike
please.
Rowan, I'm in the sociology department, full-time faculty. The statue is a major issue, and it's not unconnected to other things that we've talked about. Oh, just talk, okay. I got it now. I mean, the mantra around the college is that we don't have money. We don't have money for advising, we don't have money for things to do to truly make conditions in a place like North Hall livable, such that I don't have students in my classroom who are running to the bathroom because they're dripping with sweat. No money for any of that, but we had money for a statue of a person who owned slaves. I mean, Brian Stevens' Equal Justice Initiative right now is in the process of going around the country and trying to do something about the lack of historical memory in this country about slavery. And what do instead? We pay, how much was the statue? But I want to hear it.
I'm going to respond when you're done. Okay?
He'll respond when you're done.
A significant amount of money, let's put it that way.
When your minute is up, he'll respond. So you have a minute left.
Okay. I mean, I think I've made my point. I don't know a single student that I've talked to about this that agrees that that was something good for us to do. I don't see that as something for the students, and I see students who are not getting the experience that they deserve. The promise is a nice idea, but I have yet to hear anything about how that's going to be translated into something real. How are we going to support our students for 4 years when we've got a faculty advisor ratio in our department of about 1 to 300 or 400 students? We're going to give them a small town community experience. We're going to give them all the support that they need for 4 years. How is that going to happen in this context? I see a real disjuncture between, on the one hand, the promise and everything else that's being talked about today.
Thank you, Mike.
The cost of the statue, if I recall, was $100,000, $125,000, largely paid for through private donations and non-tax levy funds. Okay, so it didn't come out of the college's budget. This is the namesake of the institution. I'm not going to respond and debate on the historical significance of one of the founders of this country and that period of time and how it relates to the issues that you represent. But I don't think we made a choice to not have air conditioning in North Hall so we could buy a statue. That I will challenge. That's not what happened. Okay, not the same source. It's not, you know, it's not as if we could have taken the money from the statue and created better temperature conditions in North Hall. That is just not a fair comparison. Okay. Because it would have cost millions of dollars to make improvements in North Hall. $125,000 would not have. And we've invested. And as a matter of fact, we've invested some of that in improving conditions in North Hall over the last couple of years. All right, we're not going to. I don't think we're going to be able to have questions shouted out like this. So I'm going to respond to the previous speaker, and if there are other questions, you can come up to the mic and ask them. We'll respond to those too. Okay, I think that's the best way to do this. Okay. I just think we're trying to maintain a little bit of order here, that's all. We've always had a civil discussion at these meetings, and we'll stay here as long as it takes for every question to be answered. Would you be willing to just wait your turn to ask a question so we can respond to it? Because there's someone waiting here at the mic. I'm asking a question. You actually should be able to come up before, because you've already asked the question, if you don't mind. And when I'm through, I'd like you to come up and ask your question, okay? Now, in terms of the John Jay Promise, we're making a commitment. There are a lot of things that we're already doing, a lot of things that we'd like to do, that we should do. And what we're saying here as an institution, we're making a commitment to improve student outcomes. I think it's a very positive thing to be doing. I think, you look at some of the indicators already. We have great student engagement across the college, better than most of the other colleges in CUNY. The outcomes are improving, retention rates, graduation rates. So I think we are doing the right things. And I think with the resources that we do have, we are investing in the right things, like advisement, for example, like student services, like a wellness center. I think we're doing a lot of good things. Can we do more? Of course. There's no institution that should not be thinking about doing more. But I think with the limited resources that we have and still have, I think we're investing them in the right way. So you do have a question. It's your turn to come up and ask it.
I feel like there's a major disconnect between...
Please tell us who you are.
I'm Santolfa. That's all y'all need to know.
You have to speak into the mic so
Hello?
we can... Yeah, thank you.
I feel like there's a major disconnect between the bureaucrats of CUNY and the students, what the students and faculty and staff needs. We spend all this money outside of investing it where it truly needs to belong within the students and giving faculty and staff fair contracts so that they actually live and survive in this capitalistic country that exploit us. Like, we work for what? It's not enough resources put into students who have trouble just to come to class because the selection of classes that John Jay offers is so limited. If you work or you have kids or you have other responsibilities, it's just like you choose between either providing or putting a full effort into your classes. And the professors are so demanding. You're supposed to spend how many, like 4 hours, 2 hours per credit, per hours you meet in class to study? It's impossible when we have a 48-hour period in a day, and it's just like the bureaucracy of CUNY is just bullshit. It treats the students like bullshit. It treats the staff and faculty like bullshit. And then we complain about social, economic conditions, and we're giving these liberal bullshit-ass excuses or responses, oh, it's important to have a dialect. No, it's important to confront these institutions that oppress us. If it means being angry, if it means cursing, if it means speaking out when it's not your turn, then that's exactly what we should have permission to do.
Thank you for your comments. I want to start by saying we all want a contract, right? The reason there isn't a contract is not because of anything our college did or didn't do, or any college in the system, or the central office for that matter, right? The faculty and staff of this institution and all employees of the university deserve a contract. It's incredible to me that 5, 6 years now we don't have one. It's really demoralizing, I think, for the faculty and staff, and gets worse every day, especially since we're asking faculty and staff to do more and more because we're also suffering from other budget cuts. So our president, the entire administration, the CUNY administration, we all want a contract. Unfortunately, the money isn't there right now, and the university is trying to convince the governor and the legislature to pay for a reasonable contract. So what's happened is that if there is a contract, the money is going to have to come out of the colleges. So we've prepared to set aside on the expense side of our budget the funding from within the money we already have to pay for a contract. And that's what we're going to do if it comes to that, okay? I will also respond to something you said about the availability of courses. That's a fair point. And I think that's something we're looking at in terms of increasing offerings online, looking at hybrid courses. We've increased the summer and winter offerings in a very big way, and VP Troy, if there's time, can respond to that. But I think there's an understanding that, in order for you to graduate on time, we have to provide you the courses that you need, and we're moving in that direction. Hi.
Hi. My name is Blanche Cook, and I think I'm the longest-serving member of the faculty. And I've been here a very long time, since 1968. And I have to say, a really series of horrible things have happened in the last 20 years. There is a war against public education. There is a war against public higher education. There is a war specifically against CUNY and SUNY. The governor has said, no, you can't have any money. I mean, imagine that. And then there's the prison industrial complex, which happened on our watch. The privatization of prisons, prisons for profit on our watch, mandatory sentencing, the end of welfare as we know it, not only on our watch, but by a Democrat named Clinton. So there's a lot to be angry about, and what we need to do is organize, like that great lady said, who called herself a socialist, I'm not gonna mourn, I'm gonna organize. So I'm very happy to see you all here, those of you who are organized, and I vow to work closely with you, but all of us need to be part of a team to fight these disgusting attacks, not just on CUNY. Let me just say, as a journalist, I had a syndicated column and a radio show and a television show for many years, and UCLA tried to steal me away many years ago. I never even told John Jay this. The School of Journalism and the History Department offered to double my salary, hire my partner, Claire Koss, in the theater department, and give us a housing allowance. But we didn't like LA. We spent a year there. We didn't like it. So I came back to John Jay. To my great horror, UCLA has closed a bunch of schools, and UCLA has closed the second best school of journalism in the country, the UCLA School of Journalism. That is an index of the war on public education. So we have to fight, and like the Pope said, capitalism is the dung of the devil. We have to fight, and we have to organize, and let's work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Blanche Wiesen-Cook, who in many ways represents the soul of the institution. Yes.
Hi, I'm native Mixtec. I just wanted to say that as much as I love John Jay, I did not expect, certain issues like financial aid and the higher rates of tuition increasing, and especially coming from a lower working family, I see a lot of minorities on campus, and what really, really upsets me is we have law enforcement, not only law enforcement, but the military, ROTC, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. But anyways, I don't like the fact they're here recruiting students of black and brown communities. Why can't they have like more professional workers like business and all that to come in to recruit college students? And even in high schools, why can't they have college recruiters on high schools like poor barrios in the ghettos? Why can't we have college recruiters instead of military recruiters on campuses? This really focuses only on black and brown people, and this is institutionalized racism, and imperialism and capitalism, exploitation of black and brown folks, and students like myself come from Westchester County. It's really hard. I have a job, I'm full-time student, part-time worker, and the MTA, why can't you guys help students with the MTA fares? And we have to have unlimited MTA fares, because if you guys are able to accept filmmakers coming on campus, can't you use that money to help with scholarships?
We are, as a matter of fact.
Yes, but you guys do say you guys do help, but I think you guys do like pick some certain students. I understand that with good GPAs and all, but I feel like more students should have things provided, such as assistance with tutoring, because math, like myself and other students, struggle with certain things, and 1 hour is not enough. They get paid to tutor us, but 1 hour is not enough. What about 3 hours per student? I don't understand why some students, it really upsets me. We need like free education, tuition, and the faculties deserve better pay, because we want them to teach us what we really want to learn. and I feel like adjunct professors aren't getting paid well as well too, because they're part-time and full-time faculties get paid well, but they teach one course compared to faculty members, adjuncts. They teach 4 or 5 classes. It's not fair, and students, want to be taught well, and we need to be taught not only European history, but Black and Brown history too.
Thank you. Please, go ahead. Go ahead.
My question is, first of all, my name is Isabella Kaffa. I'm a junior here. My question is, why does that professor have to pay out of his own pocket for his classroom to be in good, I guess, weather moments, but then we get David Petraeus, and he gets paid hundreds and thousands of dollars for teaching us how to drop drones 101, because that's what he is. He's a war criminal. We're getting war criminals to teach us at CUNY. We're inviting war criminals to write plays, and this one didn't happen at John Jay, thank God. Happened at City College, where we get war criminals to come and teach us and show us their plays and their art, whatever you want to call it, but that's what they are, war criminals. I want to be taught by that guy. I don't want to be taught by war criminals in this school.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? We're going to close the meeting out. Yeah.
My comment is more for communication between the departments. Today I had the misfortune of not having my CUNY ID on me, but I do have other forms of identification that show that both I am a student and I am a citizen of the state of New York. There are rules, like there's a sign outside of the library, and number 3 says a library pass in order to enter the facility, and below it says law enforcement identification, and below that it says FDNY identification. Unfortunately, I also did not have my military ID because I would have not had this issue. I spoke to the security guard at the front desk, and she said, "Oh, I can't let you in, you don't have identification." She gave me the instructions of going down to the security office, and I have to get a pass from them. So I go down to the security office, I speak with a receptionist, I did not ask for her name, and she tells me, "Oh, we don't do those anymore. You have to go back, show them a copy of your schedule or syllabus and your and a state ID, basically an identification, and ask for the librarian, and that should suffice." I go back upstairs, and I'm basically called a liar, and I can't enter. I ask to speak with a librarian, and the librarian says the same thing. I tell him, "You can pull up my record. You can see that I've never returned a book late. I'm staying in the facility till 9:30, 9:45 when I'm get kicked out at night, and I have not given the school any issues in this first month that I've been here, and I don't plan on giving the school any." But then they're like, so then I decide to go upstairs to the president's office. I speak with the secretary. She calls the head of the security department, and then that is how I was granted access to the library, which I pay tuition for. But the issue is communication. One department tells me, "Hey, go to this one to do another one," and then the department's like, "Oh, we don't handle that." That also happened when I was locked out of my locker in Haaren Hall between maintenance and security, and I feel that communication is lacking on this campus. This is my 3rd school. I do appreciate the concern for veterans and being able to support my prior service status, but what about my status now as an actual student? There are many things that need to be handled, and it's all about legal. You have to go through the legal aspects of doing it, and then at every step for the problem to be resolved is no, no, no. And I'm not a person who takes no for an answer. I took it straight to the president's office, and that was how I was able to get my situation. But many students will take no for an answer, and then that's that. But that's not fair. I've noticed many issues within just the first 5 weeks, and little things that can get resolved, like not enough microwaves. The first week of school, I was eating cold lunch because I couldn't find a microwave. I was directed for like an hour looking for a microwave around the campus. Little things like that, or even the status of the locker rooms and the swimming pool are disgusting. I take swimming lessons now, and they're disgusting. They're below even a military facility, and people tell you military facilities are gross. Like using porta potties for a whole year on deployment. I'd rather be in that situation than have to shower before and after the locker rooms. That's where your money has to be allocated. Yes, you preach that money is allocated here. We do not have enough funds and student services, but practice what you preach. That's the most important thing that I want everyone to take from my 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. We've run out of time, but this is what a town hall is supposed to be. So come to the next town hall meeting with as many issues as you can bring. We are here. This is what we're supposed to do. This is to make John Jay a vibrant campus where we know what's going on and we address those issues. This is how John Jay grows. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Please come back.
If you want a liberated education, come to the Social Justice Club. Thank you.